Like a lot of you out there, I thought when you're using Figma Boolean variables, you'd be able to add animation. And it turns out that Figma neglected to add this key piece of functionality that us designers were kind of expecting. So, as I'm sure you're all aware, there are quite a few situations in interface design where you have something on screen and you want to remove it, so like deleting an item. And you don't just want it to kind of disappear magically just like that. You want to add a little bit of animation just so the user can see that it's actually gone. But you can't do this out of the box in Figma. But all is not lost. So after a lot of trial and error, a lot of frustration, a lot of hair pulling, I've uncovered what I'm calling the Figma Boolean variable animation hack. And in this video, I'm going to share it with you. In fact, I'm not just going to share the solution with you like a lot of tutorial videos. I'm going to share my journey of getting to the solution because I think it's really interesting to explain to you and to show you all the other things that I tried which didn't work. Often when we're trying to figure stuff out in design, especially around tools, it's just important to know what didn't work as much as it is to know how to do it. So if that's interesting to you, then stay tuned. This is my story of how I uncovered the Figma Boolean variable animation hack. To look at how we can apply this animation hack, I'm going to build on the prototype that I started in the last video that I did on Figma. And that was effectively using this fake streaming app. And let's just kind of run that prototype so we can kind of talk through that. So this is where we got to. We got this fake streaming app and we got this My List feature. Okay, so very typical streaming apps. And we've got this ability to hit this edit button. It's kind of sitting on top here. And it's going to open up this modal view. And this is basically giving me a vertical representation of my list. And what I built in the last video was the ability to remove these items in any order. Okay, we connected them to Figma variables, so I could remove Logan, for example, and it's gone from the list. And you'll see there's no animation there, right? So it's just basically like magic. It's like these like old BBC children's shows where they used to use that hack of the camera where they would film an actor and then he would walk off stage and then they would edit it. And it would look like he just disappeared. But there was no animation and there was no special effects in it. Really cheap way of doing it. Figma's kind of doing that. Anyway, you're probably too young to remember that. Okay, I digress. Let's go back. Okay, so that's gone. So I would assume that it's gone from the list on home as well. So if I close this down, you can see that indeed it is gone. So we're using that magic of Figma variables to affect two items in two parts of the interface. But there's no animation, okay? So that's what we want to do. That's where we want to apply this hack. And I actually want to apply this hack inside of this modal view, okay? So when I hit the trash icon, then the item kind of animates up. Okay, so that's what we're gonna do in this video. So let's duplicate this page as our starting point. And I'm gonna call this animation hack. Okay, so I'm here thinking, okay, so I need to add some animation into this. So how do I do that in Figma? So I know that I'm thinking about, well, where's the different places you can add animation in Figma? So obviously like the main strong point of Figma animation is Smart Animate. So I'm thinking, okay, I know that you can use Smart Animate between two component states. Maybe I'll make this item a component and use that capability there. So this is what I kind of tried first. This is my kind of starting point. So if I open up home, in fact, let's just double click into this, grab this last camera. So you can see I'm not using any components here. I'm going to grab that, I'm going to copy that. I'm just going to paste that over here. So I've got my kind of first state. I'm also going to need to remove the variable here because I actually want to apply the variable to the instances of the component, not inside the component itself, because it's going to turn off different variables. So I'm just going to remove that. Okay, so we've got a nice clean kind of component or start beginnings of a component with nothing in. I'm going to make that a component. Hit the Make Component button. Okay, and I'm going to rename this list item. Okay, so we got our list item. So how am I going to make the animation happen? So I thought, I know what, I'll add another state. So I've got now two states here. So we can see over in the layers panel, I've got default and I've got variant 2. And by the way, really annoying how how it kind of like does it the wrong way around. Like I want my first state above and my second state below. Anyway, so just move those around. And I'm actually going to take advantage of the Boolean capability in Figma. And if you don't know what that is, so if I double click into my default state, you can see by default it calls it property1 equals default. So I'm going to make this a Boolean. So I'm going to actually call my property value visible, because that's the property we're actually kind of thinking about. So visible equals true. And if I use the word true and false, it's going to give me the little switch inside of Figma so I can actually switch between them. So this is the Boolean capability that I'm talking about. So variant 2 is going to be visible equals false. Okay, so they're set. Now the second thing I want to do is, in fact, what I'm going to do first, I'm going to connect these up because it's just a little bit easier. So I thought I'll grab the trash icon on my visible state, select that, I'm going to come into prototype mode, and I'm going to add a click interaction. And on click, I'm going to use the change to action. So the change to action inside of Figma gives you the ability to change between smart component states. Okay, so we've got this true and false. We're going to use it to change to false. So I'm going to choose the change to, and you can see here what I'm talking about now. If you're a little bit unfamiliar, this little switch, I get this in the interface of Figma because I'm using true and false inside of my smart component. Okay. Okay, so I want to change to visibility equals false, and you can see as soon as I did that, this little noodle appeared. So that's connecting. That's cool. And you can see what it's also uncovered is some animation options. So defaults to instant, which is boring. You've got dissolve as well, and you've got smart animate, and smart animate's the one we want. Okay, so I'm going to choose smart animate, and I'm going to leave the easing curve as ease out. I'm just going to change the speed to 200 milliseconds. Okay, so now I've got a change to action that's going to use smart animate to animate between these two states. That's good, but nothing's changed at the moment. They're both the same, so you wouldn't see anything. So I'm thinking, well, I need to make it look like it's going to disappear. I know what. I'll just delete everything out of the second state. So I came into here, deleted the content, so I'm just leaving the container. And you can see I've got kind of like a slightly smaller empty container. But I thought I want to get that as small as possible to make it look like it's disappeared. So I'm going to switch over to design mode here. And if I come over into the sizing, you can see it's inside of an auto layout already, so it's kind of got hug. I want to change the height of this to as small as I can possibly make it. So I'm going to turn it from hug into fixed height. And Figma only lets you do the minimum of 1. So if I type in 0 here, it will default to 1. That's literally the thinnest you can do in Figma, okay? But that's thin enough, that's good enough. People are not going to notice like a 1 pixel distance. Okay, so now smart animate, I'm thinking, should work now. It's going to animate when I hit the trash icon from this stuff into this smaller container, and that should like force the animation. Okay, so let's see if that works. So I need to paste it into my prototype. So I'm going to highlight, and if you don't know this, if you highlight the first state of a component in the kind of main component here. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to come over to my list here, and I'm going to right click and use paste to replace. Okay, so you can now see that I've got a component instance instead of that first item. Okay, so that should work, I'm thinking. Let's go back to prototype mode and we'll open up preview, see what happens. So we'll come into my list and I'm going to hit the trash icon here, and I'm hoping I'm going to get some animation. This is literally what I'm hoping like in the moment when I did it. And it works. I was like, wow, my God, I thought that would work and it worked. That's amazing. Okay. Some things I want to call out here, which I thought was quite interesting. So let me just close this down. Now, you might be thinking, but hold a minute, how did he control the animation of the auto layout? So what controlled the items moving up, because if you think about it, I just animated between these two states inside of the component. So I've said from here, I'm going to go to here. And it's basically using, it's kind of like a fading animation, really. It's not like a kind of squishing animation, but it kind of is a squishing animation, I guess, when you use Smart Animate. And it's this animation that's driving the animation of the auto layout moving up. And to prove that, let me just come back into this noodle. I'm going to change this from Smart Animate back to Instant. Because you might think, well, if I just animate from one to the other, auto layout should just animate for me. That should just happen automatically, which obviously it doesn't. But let's kind of just prove that out. Come back into this, my list, hit Last Samurai, no animation. So it's actually the animation I'm adding between the two states that's driving the concertining up of the auto layout, which I thought was kind of interesting. Almost felt like it was like a side effect. Anyway, didn't know that was going to work. Kind of worked, was very happy. Okay, let's close that down. Let's come back into this, and we're going to put the animation back on, the Smart Animate back on. Okay, let's just double check that's working. All good. Okay, so I've just removed Last Samurai. Of course, I want it to disappear in the home view as well. So if I close this down, it's still there. Well, obviously I removed the variable action, right? So there's nothing turning it off. So I need to kind of go back and add that. But I need to add that on the instance. So let's close that down. So you can see previously there were no component instances. So everything was added individually. These are the other variable options. So let's go into this instance. And what I want to do is I want to re-add the variable action onto the trash item. So I'm thinking, oh, I wonder if you can add actions onto variable instances when you're using components, because I didn't know. So I came over to my instance here and I selected delete. And I saw in prototyping mode, okay, it says variant interactions. So there's a variant interaction down here, which is already added. So I'm clicking that. I'm going, oh, right. So it's kind of inherited the action from the smart component. That's cool. And it seems like I can add more actions, but now I'm adding them at the instance level, not at this kind of main level. So I thought, cool. So I'll just add in that action again. So, and the way I did that was I used the set variable action. It can see all my local variables, which is good. I'm going to choose Last Samurai, and I'm going to set it to false. Okay, that looks good. So it's going to change, it's going to do my animation, and then it's going to set the Boolean variable to false, and that's going to make the other thing disappear. Sounds good. Let's run that and see what happens. So I go into my list, edit, hit the trash icon, animation nicely happens, close it down, and it's still there. So I'm like, okay, let me just go back and double check. Let's go into here. Definitely there, definitely setting the variable Last Samurai to false, and it's not working. So I'm like, okay, well, this might be a bug or whatever, but for whatever reason, it's not working. What else can I try? Okay. So I thought maybe there's a clash between the fact that I set one thing on the main component and the other thing on the instance. I mean, it kind of feels like it should work. I mean, it's not like Figma stops you from adding it, but for some reason, there must be some sort of clash there. I know what I'll do is I'll remove all of the actions from the main component. Okay, so let me just go back into, in fact, let's just remove everything. This is where I'm at. Okay, so I'm going back into the list item. It's going to remove this whole action. Okay, I'm going to come to the main one. I'm going to remove this action. Okay, so back to the drawing board, right? Okay, let's add it all to the instance, I'm thinking. Okay, so I'm going to come back into my instance. I'm going to select my delete trash icon, and I'm going to go into interactions, and I'm going to say on click. Let's do the animation first. So I'm going to change to turn the visible off so we can still see the component interactions. I'm going to turn that to Smart Animate, 200 milliseconds, and then I'm going to add the set variable. Last Samurai to false. Okay. So now this has all been set on the instance, okay? Okay, let's try that. So let's just kind of go back to our preview, hit my list, and we're going to remove Last Samurai. Animation is still there, which is great. Close down, and it's still there. And I'm like, what the? Okay, just double check. Why is this not working? I'm thinking. Double check, change to visible, Smart Animate, blah de blah, that bit, set variable, Last Samurai equals false. Definitely connected, go back. Go back, yes, it's definitely connected. Okay, what else can I try? Okay, so let's go back. So I thought, at this point, nothing to lose, right? So go back into the instance, go back to the trash icon, go into prototype mode, come into the action, thinking, well, all I can really do is transpose these two actions. So maybe the order of the actions makes a difference. So I'm going to do that. So I just took the animation and I moved it below, okay? So now we're setting the variable first, then we're running the animation. Now one more thing, in fact, let me just run it, because it's another thing. Bit of a leftover thing. Let's kind of close that down, open this up. This is fun. This is what design is, trying to figure stuff out, or mainly on the prototyping side. Came in, and then I think, okay, I'm going to hit trash. Well, hold on, the animation's disappeared. Now what's going on? Oh my God. Right. What's going on? Okay, so let me come back to this item. And actually, when I looked at this instance in design mode, I saw that actually it was still connected to the Boolean variable. And of course, as soon as the Boolean variable is changing, it's making it disappear. So it's disappearing, it's turning it off before the animation has a chance to run, right? Okay, and I don't actually need it to be connected to this, this instance because I've got the animation removing it. I just need it to be connected to this instance up here. So I can just safely remove this. I'm just going to disconnect this here. Okay. Back to prototyping mode, open up prototype, go into my list, delete the Last Samurai, animation's back, woohoo! Okay, moment of truth, going to close this down, and it's gone. Hallelujah! And I was like so happy. I was like, yeah, it's working. I have no idea why, but it's working. Okay. So, so that is the hack. Now you can now you know how to do it. Now I've shown you how to do it. You can actually add this to the other items, and you can freely delete them in any order. You get the animation and everything kind of disappears as you would expect. Okay. I won't waste your time by doing it now, but effectively just replace all these others and just kind of connect them all at the instance level. Just follow those same instructions. Okay, so there you have it. A way to add animation and use variables. Now you know the secret. You can add the actions to everything else and use it in other designs as well. So just some final thoughts. I guess it's worth bearing in mind that all these new prototyping features are in an open beta. So Figma being quite clear about that. I guess we got to expect some bugs here and there. I still don't really know what things are bugs and what things are intentional. So if anybody who's watching this video knows anybody at Figma, you can connect us, or anybody at Figma's watching this video, I'd really like to know, you know, should any of these things be changing in the future. Hopefully we will get the ability to just add animation when we add our variable action. That would be really cool, and then we wouldn't have to kind of do these kind of hacky things. Okay. So that brings me to the end of this video. This brings me to the end of this particular Figma story. I'm going to be continuing to explore Figma prototyping, and I guess the benefit, or I don't know if it's a benefit, but you're getting to see my frustrations and my ways of figuring stuff out as I go along. So if you're used to watching my channel and you're used to watching mostly prototype videos, this is kind of interesting for me because I'm kind of learning as I go, and I'm kind of sharing with you as I go. So it's going to be a slightly different kind of version of me, not this is how I know it's going to work. It's more like, I think it's kind of interesting, like trying to figure it out, and you can kind of see how I figure things out. And hopefully that will help you be able to approach problems when you get them in your own work. Okay. So if you like this new format, if you like these videos, if you want to help me get the word out, then please hit the like button and subscribe, and tweet it, share Protopilot far and wide. That'd be really helpful. And I'll be continuing looking at all the other Figma prototyping features. So I'm going to be focusing on Figma prototyping features, and I'm really interested to see how far I can push it. There will also almost certainly be some hybrid videos between Figma and Protopy, so how you do something in Figma and how you do something in Protopy. Anyway, I'm now aware that I'm rambling, and you're probably not even watching now, so I'm going to go. Okay, hope you enjoyed the video. Leave some comments leave some comments below if you've got any questions, or you want me to do any particular videos around anything, Protopy, Figma, whatever. And hopefully I'll see you next time. Take it easy.